Hello, Jambo, Karibu. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. Okay, how are you guys and ladies? How are you doing? Today it is Saturday as I am filming this, and I will explain myself. The reason why I did not film the other weekend, it was because one, it was a long weekend and it was Independence Day for my country, the Republic Democratic of Congo. Yeah!
Independence, cha-cha, those who we Oti kwanza, cha-cha, tubakiri. Otamero, cha-cha, baganyeo. Oti panda, cha-cha, those who we
And then it was also Canada Day. So the 30th, we celebrated my country, my home country. And then on the 1st, we celebrated my adoptive countries. We had some events to attend to. We also were hosting as well. So it was way too hectic. And even if I wanted to film, my husband would not have had time to edit the video. So here we are. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that weekend before we get into the nitty-gritty of what this video will be about. Okay guys, so a little bit about last weekend. As I said, we celebrated Independence Day of my country, the Congo. And I just want to say one little tiny thing about that celebration. A wise man once said, or once told me, he said, if you have thieves that come into your home and let me take off these. If you have thieves that come into your home and they settle themselves in your home while you have your children, your family there, and they basically take over your home, and the one chance you have to take back your home, are you gonna let it go or are you gonna take advantage of it? Regardless of the fact that maybe your wife, your kids, your uncles are not well equipped to defend themselves. Are you going to take that opportunity or are you just going to let it go? All of that to say, a lot of people feel that we took our independence way too early. The people or the citizens of our country were not ready. Should we have let the colonizers stay there for as long as they wanted to, and us Congolese people just look at them, install themselves in our country, rape our women, take advantage of our riches because we didn't have what it took to defend the country? Does that make sense to y'all? No. So that's what I want to say to anyone who thinks that we were premature in taking our independence. That is absolute bullcrap. Okay, and having said that, happy Independence Day again. And then Canada Day, well, Canada Day is Canada Day. We celebrated, I don't know how many years of Canada? Something. My husband will put how many years here somewhere. But essentially, that's what I wanted to say about last weekend. Now, drums please. And now let's get into today's video. It is time for my June wrap up, and let's find out if I actually read everything that I set myself to read. First off, I had how many books? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold up, let me show you. These were the books that I set myself to read for the month of June, including my Audible books. So on my Audible, I read the following. I read The Secret Keeper of Jaipur by Alka Joshi. And I also read a random book, Almost Brown, a mixed race family memoir by Charlotte Gill. And let's not forget The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris. So in total, for the month of June, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. And I'm gonna add Island Queen as well. So although I finished it like a few days ago, which we were already in the month of July, I'm gonna count down for the month of June. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it. Let me just give you a little resume of all the books that I read. All right, guys, so these are in no particular orders, but I will rate them. So, first one, let's talk about A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. Now, because I have a book review about this, a lengthy one, I'm not going to give you a thorough resume about it. So we have two very different families. We have the family of Eniola, who is poor. And then we have the family of Uraola, who's rich. Yes, rich. Now, Eniola is this young boy. He's about 12, if I recall. I can never remember his age. But if not 12, max 16, I don't think so. But he's very young. And he lives with his mom and dad and his sister. And his dad has lost his job. And they're very, very poor. So his mom is the one taking control of the situation. She is the one who goes outside, trying to fend for the family so that they can have something to eat, so that her kids, Eniola and his sister, are able to go to school. Although the struggle is so intense that the parents are not able to pay for the school fees. You see throughout the story how Eniola is beaten by the teacher because the school fees are not paid. And you also see in the development of the story how the mother, finally desperate, she asks her children to go beg. Not gonna say much more. That is what happens with Eniola's family. On the other hand, we have Waola, is this golden girl. She studied in medicine. She works in a hospital. She is the jewel of her parents. And she has this boyfriend who is the son of a well-known family who know each other. Both families know each other. So Uraola is going out with this man. To the eyes of the world, he is the perfect boyfriend. But beware of the true nature of that man. He is not who we think he is. He is a son of a bitch. Pardon my French. He is a woman beater. Now, what happens in the story of Uraola, without me getting into too much of it, because as I said, if you want more, go watch my book review about it. She is promised to marry him. Now the question is, knowing what she knows about who her boyfriend is she willing to marry this man? I don't know, but I do know. It's for you guys to find out. And the end, I remember the book review, I told you guys, I didn't know about the end, but I finally read the end. No. I refuse the end. Ayobami Adebayo, I refuse the end. The sister. That's all I'm gonna say. And Raula's dad. That's all I am going to say. Okay? So that was essentially the gist of A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. I enjoyed the book. As you can tell, I really, really loved the story. I found it so original. It was original and it was a page turner for me. I needed to know what would happen, and it delivered. Like, this book delivered in every way for me. So I am rating this book 4.5 out of 5. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If you haven't picked it up, please do so. Next, it is this book by Nathan Harris. I also have a book review about this one. I will link the video for it somewhere here. This was a 4.5 out of 5 read for me, like a 4.5 star. It was a fantastic read. Now, this book, without getting too much into details, it is about Landry, and Prentice. There are these two black men who are recently emancipated. It is around the Civil War years when black people are being emancipated after slavery and all that nastiness. And we also have George, who is this white man who has a land and he lives there with his wife Isabel. Now, the link between these two characters is that Prentice and Landris just are wandering around and they find themselves on George's land. So George decides to give them, some work on his land and he will pay them. And we also meet Caleb. Caleb is a Confederate soldier. He comes back for war, but he has a secret. And during that time, the secret he was hiding is a secret that was absolutely forbidden. So Prentice, one of the brothers, discovers the secret. And what happens is that he pays the price for discovering that secret. And the way the author wrote this story, it had all the right feels to it. You felt sad, you felt powerful emotion towards Caleb's other friend. Was it August? I believe it was August. It was August and Caleb. You felt like he was a coward for not doing more. And August, obviously he's a dog and needs to be dealt with. And Landry is torn between vengeance and knowing that if he actually acts on his feelings of wanting to avenge what happened to his brother, he's also gonna get in trouble. So that's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to spoil the story for you guys. If you want more of my review on it, again, I will link my video for that. And please, if you have not picked up this book yet, do so. It is fantastic. Next, I read the Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. Now, this book is actually written by two authors. It's different, right? It's two women who wrote the story. Like, isn't that amazing? It's pretty cool. Now, in this book, we follow Jessica, who's a single mom, and she has a kid, a daughter, who's about 7, I believe. 7, yeah, she's 7. Jess works with numbers. She's a very logical person. But then she has a best friend, and they both hear about this company that is called Genetic Ally. And Genetic Ally, we have CEO, none other than Dr. River Pina, if I'm saying that correctly. But let's call him Dr. River. Dr. River has come up with this new way of dating. So it is based on your DNA match. And how it works is that two people send their saliva and it is brought to their laboratory where they do some kind of DNA synchronization, and when a match is found, boom, it means that depending on the percentage of the match, it means that you guys are compatible with each other or not compatible with each other. Now, the amazing part of this new invention is that they're looking for platinum or diamond. Diamond are the ones who match at like 90 and above, or 80 and above. Platinum, yeah, 90 and above, something around there. Okay, now Dr. River and Jessica, just for the fun of it, she sends her saliva and he also does, and lo and behold, their match is 98%. Like, the F, and they didn't even like each other. So obviously you can tell this is a contemporary romance, and it is not enemies to lover, but like they didn't really feel each other at the beginning, right? And something ensues, develops between the two of them. Now, what happens next, or what Jessica discovers after building that relationship with Dr. River, before I even get into it, you guys, if you read the book, remember the scene, their first love scene? Oh, it had me looking at Bay like, I was like, okay. It's the part where her friend asks her, what does she want to do? She says she wants to go see him. And she goes to his house. And that scene, hallelujah! And many more scenes, of course. But it was spectacular. Christina Lauren, y'all did it. Y'all got some going on in your head for imagining that scene. I loved it. But yeah, so anyways, they finally get to build a relationship, and they are photographed, Vanity, all these magazines, all these popular channels and TV shows want to get to know them, all that good stuff that Jessica and Dr. River obviously are not into, but they have to because they are trying to promote this new way of dating. It's like genetic ally version of Tinder, I suppose. So there you have it. And then there's something that happens in the story where the results look like it might have been tampered with. Now, the question is, will they let the result dictate the future of their relationship? Or will they say, F it, fuck it, we were meant to be for each other? Now, that's for me to know and for you to find out. But all in all, I enjoyed this read. It was really quick for me, and I rated 4 out of 5. Beautiful. Obviously, this book, as I said, it is similar to the other book that I read, The Mothers. It is Hold My Girl by Charlene Carr. It was a wonderful book. I also have a book review on this. So again, I am not going to get into too much details on this story, but do look out for the triggers because it does deal with some heavy subjects such as infertility and stillbirth, a little bit of racism in there. So please look out for this when you pick it up. But other than that, I love the way this particular author wrote about this story. As we know, it is the story of Tess and Katrin. Tess is this Poland small white girl, and she's also going through infertility issues. She gives birth to a still baby. And then Catherine, she's able to carry a baby to term. And obviously there was a mix-up with the eggs. Now, Catherine finds herself with a baby that does not belong to her. And Tess is now with no babies. But she finds out that she actually has a baby that is alive somewhere. And lo and behold, it is someone she knows by the name of Catherine. Now, what happens? Now, what is a mother to do in this case? Now, Catherine, her argument is she carried this baby to term. Now, no one knows, had that egg been in Tess's body, would Tess have brought that baby to term, or would it have been a stillbirth? Now, Tess, her argument is, I know you brought this baby to term, but it's my baby. It's my egg that was implanted in your womb by someone's horrible mistake. No. Believe it or not, it was not a mistake. Yeah, if you read the story, you will find out that it was on purpose. Now, who could have done such thing and almost ruined the lives of two wonderful women who only wanted a child? Okay, as I said, I have a book review on this. I'm not going to get into much on it. But the end is different than the end that was written in The Mothers. As I said, I could have chosen a different ending, but that was the end that the author chose, and I understand her reasoning. I do understand her reasoning because we do find out a lot about both Catherine and both Tess. They are women who are nice, but their past and behaviors are not without any fault. So the judge I understand why the judge chose the way she chose. So, if I have to rate this book, it is gonna be, what did I rate it in my review? I feel like it's a 3 out of 5. Like, it was a good read. It was really good. Like, it was good. 3 out of 5 is good. So pick it up. Next, guys, I have this lovely, beautiful book, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. Obviously, it is the sequel to Children of Blood and Bone. Now, I also have a review on this one, and I was like, why? It's the end for me felt like there's another third book coming out, but it didn't need to come out. It didn't need to continue. You know what I mean? It did not need to continue. So we follow Amari, Zeli, Inan. Zeli is part of the Orisha kingdom, and Inan is part of the other kingdom that is trying to annihilate the kingdom of Orisha because of their power, of their magi power. I do have a review on this one, and I don't want to get into much of it, but I need to wrap up the story so that you understand a little bit. So in the first one, something went wrong with the ritual that was supposed to happen so that the Orisha people could regain their magi power. They did regain the power, but the enemies also got power. That's what happened. So now we deal with the enemies having power as well and fighting the magi people. And Inan is the prince, obviously. We thought he was dead. He's not dead. He's very much alive. And his mom is very powerful, and she is out for vengeance, for blood, literally. And Amari and Zeli have now a mission, which is to put Amari on the throne, because if the mother and Inan takes the throne, the Orisha people are gonna perish. So basically, the whole book is war against the enemies warring the other side, and the other side overpowering the other side, and it never ends. That's what happens. In the end, that almost felt like it was the end, was not the end. I was not satisfied with the end. So I think I give this 3 out of 5. It was a good story, but I felt that there was some lackluster elements in this book. So still pick it up, because the first one was awesome. So you must read the second one. And I don't know, is there talk of a third one? Anyone knows? Okay. All right, guys. So the only book I did not read for the month of June was this one, this retelling that I wanted to read but didn't get through. I will eventually get to it. But isn't it pretty? Look at our hair, so pretty, huh? Next, I want to talk about The Secret Keeper of Jaipur by Alka Joshi. Now, that's the second book in the trilogy. The first was The Henna Artist, which I also have a review on. And the second is this one, The Secret Keeper, which I also have a review on. We do follow Lakshmi, but the main character in this second book is Malik. Malik was that little boy that was with Lakshmi in the first book. She adopted him unofficially. And we follow him in this one, where he goes back to Jaipur. And over there, he studies. While studying in Jaipur, he is with the royal family. And over there, they are building this huge film theater that's going to be like a first for Jaipur. And what happens, without me getting into too much of it, is that there is a collapse that happens with the theater. Now Malik will set himself on a journey to find out what happened. How can something so grand that was supposed to not collapse at all, how did it collapse? Who was responsible for the collapse of the theater? I have to find the name. I guess you can call it the Colosseum. So, who is responsible for the collapse of the Colosseum? Who in the royal family has something to do with it? And Malik is gonna find out. Other than that, we also have a love interest with Shimla. Shimla lives with Lakshmi in the Himalaya. That's where they live. And Shimla is she's this tribal woman who tends to sheep. That's what she does. And she is not educated, but she is very much in love with Malik. And she also she goes through some adversities as well in her life that will challenge her love for Malik, her life, and what she believes in. And it will also set her and Lakshmi on a path to discover the link between what's going on in Jaipur and what happens with the gold that has been trafficked in her village all the way through the city of Jaipur. Now, it was a fantastic read. I enjoyed the book. It was really cool. So if you haven't picked it up, and if you want to hear more about my review on it, again, I will post the video somewhere. But I have to remember what I rated them. And if I make mistake on my rating, I will correct them somewhere. But I believe it is a 3 out of 5. Maybe 3.5, but definitely a 3. Really good book. Really good book. Next, I read Almost Brown. Where do I begin with Almost Brown? Guys, it was so much. It was a lot for me. Almost Brown, as I mentioned earlier, is a memoir, mixed memoir. It was a kaleidoscopic story. That's all I'm gonna say. It had so many factors, so many stories in one, and the way it was told, it was by the daughter. The daughter has 2 siblings. She's a twin. Those 4 twins, when you're not like non-identical twin. And the way the story is told, it is her telling her story of her life and her parents' life and the world, the story of the world. Literally, in this book, she touched about slavery. She touched about all the wars in Africa, the wars in India. She talked about the domination of white people on all the races. She spoke about the pandemic. She talked about traveling in the United States and traveling in Canada. It was all over the place. I mean, I bought the book on a whim. I don't know what I was getting into getting into. But essentially, it is this woman who is born of an English mother and an Indian father, hence the Almost Brown. And I believe it's a memoir of her life and all the adversities that they've had to go through, and the wanting to accept themselves the way they are, and wanting to belong to a certain race or not belong to a certain race, and being of mixed race, how it was just almost something seen as exotic, depending on which time she was talking about. Because as I said, she talked about back then when it was forbidden, especially in England, when mixed race were not allowed, and that's when her dad and her mother got married. Her dad also lived in Kenya, believe it or not. And it's funny, I want to say something about that. When I actually watch my Afrobeat songs, I noticed that in Kenya or even Tanzania, they have these Indian attires and these Indian looks. And I'm like, isn't that cultural appropriation? But come to realize that there were some Indians that settled in Kenya and around some places in Africa, even South Africa. Remember when I mentioned that in Trevor Noah? So, yeah, oh, God, I forgot that I also read Trevor Noah. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But anyways, she spoke about mixed race not being accepted and how her parents had to navigate the racism that came their way because of the fact that the mom was white and the dad was Indian. Her parents did divorce. And because of the divorce, she's had to live with the mom, and the dad had to move out of the house. And she talks about her experiences in school with her siblings and the different colors that the siblings had. She was almost mostly brown with most of the features from her dad, whereas the third one was like mostly pale with her mom's features, and her and her brother, where their skin will be intangible, their hair will be different. It's not fine like white people, but it's like mostly black, like Indian hair, all of that. So she talked about that, and she's using, there's never a dialogue throughout the book. There's never a dialogue. She talks about, the way she talks is that my dad went to the hospital, he did this, but my mom was always like that. Me and my brothers lived to that. Is it a third person? Yeah, there was never a dialogue. She just it was a whole long story that she's telling. It was interesting to know the views that a mixed race like that was navigating through. She also talked about the fact that she was not, the expectations of her Indian side was always that, you either become a doctor, but she was not a doctor, she was a teacher. She talked about her relationship with dad. At some point in her life, especially after the divorce, their relationship soured because of how he managed the money and how he treated them. He was really harsh with them, whereas her mom never got mad. She was really almost platonic. She was always like never getting mad, but she had a grip on them. She even said that if her mom got mad, you knew that you're gonna be in trouble. But because of their dad getting mad every time, the kids weren't even fearful of him. But yeah, she speaks about the fact that their relationship soured and how she finally, later on in her life, tried to mend the relationship by going to see him somewhere in the United States or in Canada. She talks about their travels throughout the United States and Canada. She talks about Toronto. She talks about Texas and the United States, all these different cities that they've lived in their lives. Now, if you aren't interested, I don't want to take away from the importance of this book, because she did talk about a lot of important things, especially about the racism, about being part of the brown community. She also talked about what black people had to go through. As I said, she talked about every kind of subject, like slavery, how the effect of it was really passed on through generation, and you could see it in the community that she lived in the, like, say for example in Toronto or some places in the United States, how they were treated differently. Like a lot of subjects, guys. I don't even think I'm going through all of them. It was an interesting read, but I don't think if I knew the way it was written, the way it was told, that I would pick it up. But I read it, and I'm glad I read it. I believe the author is she's very poised. She did an intricate job of telling her story, but also adding the story of the world in the story of her life. I think it takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of stamina to come up with such a story. So there you have it, guys. But I'm forgetting one book, guys. See, I read so many books and I almost forgot that I read Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. Now, I also have a review on that book, meaning I'm not about this. This video is already what, 40 minutes? Minus the like 30 seconds of tweaking it that my husband is gonna do. But that's what happens when you read so many books, But yeah, Trevor Noah, amazing. Born a Crime. This man is hilarious. And the way he told the story of his life, because it's a memoir, it is of him growing up in South Africa and of his mother. I believe it is a book to honor his mom, and I love that. It was so funny, but it was also so sad, because you knew that this mixed kid grew up in a country that hated his skin color. And there were so many different people found in South Africa, to the point where the government had a system of placing you depending on your skin color. Like, can you believe it? And he also speak of how much things he could get away with because of his coloring. He spoke about how his mom was so wise, the things he would tell her, the way she she was almost advanced for her time. Her mom was like, she was a rebel in a time where black people should not have been that rebel, but her mom was like, she was a G. I have a thorough review on Born a Crime if you want to hear about it. So I'm just gonna stop here and tell you guys that if you haven't picked up Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, please pick it up. He's a fantastic narrator, and the way he tells his story, the adversities he had to come up, and his journey all the way to the United States and doing what he does today, it is quite an amazing story. I get astonished, amazed when I hear what people have gone through. Like, I want to tell you something about my life, and I can tell you it has there's no action to it, but it's always so amazing to discover the stories of people, and Trevor Noah's story was a unique story. So there you have it, guys. I think, oh no, that's not it. I also read Island Queen, man. I read that book. Okay, now you know what, I love that book. I'm not going to talk too much about it, simply because I want to do a book review about it. Guys, I need to do a book review about Island Queen, but it's about Dorothy. She was enslaved, but she's dark skinned, and she was the daughter of the planter, of the slave owner, who was white, and her mom was obviously black. Now, she was always a rebel from the time she was young, and we follow her journey from the time she was a baby, literally through her older age when she was like 60 something. And I love Vanessa Riley, guys. The way she wrote her story, I even followed a little bit of her interview, when they asked her how she came up with the story. Come to discover that Dorothy was based on real life. She was truly this extravagant woman who fought so much and so hard for her manumission, and also for the freedom of her siblings, her mom. And she also went out with the Prince William. She bore 10 children. Guys, Island Queen, I followed it. Like the narrator, the way she tells the story with the accent, the Caribbean accent, loved it. But I was also reading it on my e-Kindle because it was actually free. So I want to do a full thorough review on Island Queen. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna spoil the story. So if you haven't read it, do not follow my book review on it. Alright guys, I'm gonna end here. I think I did the round of all the books that I read in the month of June. So stay tuned for what I'll be reading for the month of July. Sorry, I don't know what I was doing there, but okay. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure I see you in my next video. Ciao.